In recent weeks, one major story has captured the attention of the entire nation. A story that blends politics, law, public safety, and one of America's most iconic cities. Former President Donald Trump has announced a proposal that has sparked both curiosity and controversy, a plan to deploy the National Guard to San Francisco. The goal, according to Trump, is to restore order, reduce crime, and take back control of what he calls a once great city now facing serious challenges. But beyond the headlines, what does this really mean? Can a president, or former president speaking as a political figure, actually send the National Guard into a U.S. city like San Francisco? What are the legal limits, the political reactions, and the real-life implications of such a move? Let's break it down, calmly, clearly, and factually. To understand the current debate, we need to start with the situation in San Francisco itself. For years, the city has been known as a center of innovation and culture, the heart of Silicon Valley, the home of some of the world's biggest tech companies, and a symbol of progress and diversity. But recently, headlines have focused on something else entirely: rising concerns about public safety, homelessness, and property crime. Images of storefront thefts and reports of businesses relocating have fueled a narrative that San Francisco is in decline. City leaders have pushed back, saying progress is being made, but the perception of chaos has become a powerful political issue. And that's where Trump's new comments come in. Speaking at a recent rally, Trump said he would consider using federal authority, specifically the National Guard, to help restore law and order in cities like San Francisco if local governments fail to do so themselves. The statement immediately went viral, reigniting a long-running debate about the balance of power between state and federal authorities. Here's how that works. Under U.S. law, each state controls its own National Guard. Governors can deploy their guard troops for emergencies like wildfires, floods, or civil unrest. However, under certain circumstances, the president can federalize those troops, meaning they would operate under federal command. This authority comes mainly from two laws, the Insurrection Act and Title 10 of the U.S. Code. The Insurrection Act, first passed in 1807, gives the president limited power to use military forces inside the U.S. to enforce federal law or protect citizens when local authorities cannot. But it's only been used a handful of times in modern history. For example, during the Civil Rights Movement in the 1960s and after Hurricane Katrina. It's considered a last resort. That is why many legal experts say Trump's proposal would face significant legal and political hurdles. Deploying troops without state approval could be seen as an overreach, sparking lawsuits and debates over constitutional authority. Governors, especially California's governor, have already made clear they oppose the idea, arguing that local control is essential. Still, Trump's supporters argue that extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures. They point to ongoing concerns about crime, drug use, and homelessness in major cities, saying the federal government has a duty to protect citizens when local leadership fails. They view this plan as a bold step to restore accountability and public safety. On the other hand, critics warn that using the National Guard this way could set a dangerous precedent, blurring the line between civilian law enforcement and military power. They emphasize that most policing should remain in the hands of local and state authorities, not the federal government. So where does the truth lie? Like most complex issues, it's somewhere in the middle. The debate isn't just about Trump or San Francisco. It's about how far federal power should reach within U.S. cities and how America balances security with democracy. What's also fascinating is how this moment reflects the broader political divide in the country. Some Americans see this as a symbol of strong leadership, a leader willing to step in and fix problems others ignore. Others see it as an overstep, a move that could erode the very freedoms that define local self-government. Meanwhile, San Francisco officials have said they are already taking action to address public safety concerns. The city has launched new crime prevention initiatives, expanded police patrols, and worked with community organizations to reduce homelessness and drug addiction. They argue that real solutions come from sustained policy efforts, not short-term military deployments. Legal scholars have also been weighing in. Most agree that if the Insurrection Act were invoked, it would require clear evidence that local authorities cannot maintain order, something that hasn't been shown in San Francisco. In other words, while the idea might grab headlines, it's unlikely to happen in practice without major legal challenges. But in politics, perception is powerful. For Trump, this proposal isn't just about policy, it's also about messaging. By highlighting issues in San Francisco, he reinforces a broader campaign theme: the promise to restore safety and strength to American cities. It's a narrative that resonates with many voters who feel left behind by rapid change, rising costs, and a sense of disorder in daily life. At the same time, it energizes his critics, who argue that these kinds of statements oversimplify complex urban issues. The clash of these perspectives, federal versus state, order versus freedom, perception versus reality, is what makes this story so compelling. As the discussion unfolds, it is important to remember that the National Guard has always been a force for stability. From disaster relief to peacekeeping, they serve to protect communities, not divide them. Any decision about their use inside U.S. borders must be made carefully, with respect for both the law and the people it serves. In the coming weeks, expect this debate to continue, not just about San Francisco, but about the future of federal power in America. Because behind every political headline, there's a deeper question: who decides what's best for our communities? Local leaders, state governments, or the federal government itself? And maybe that's what makes this moment so defining. It is not just about one city or one policy. It is about how America chooses to govern itself in times of tension and change. No matter where you stand politically, one thing is clear: these conversations matter. They shape not only our laws and our leadership, but also the principles we live by. And in the end, understanding the facts, calmly, responsibly, and truthfully, is the best way to move forward as one nation.